VCY America presents Crosstalk, a nationwide call-in program discussing issues that have an effect on our families, our communities, our churches, our nation, and our world. Crosstalk, an opportunity for you to voice your concerns for biblical principles. And now live by satellite and around the world on the internet at vcyamerica.org. Here is today's Crosstalk.
Well, Happy New Year to you, and thank you for joining us on Crosstalk today here on VCY America. And being Friday, we are going to have a news roundup and comment program today, much taking place over the past many days. And friends, the direction that we're going in some areas is very, very concerning. And I'm speaking specifically as to the new leadership in the city of New York right now. And I'm looking at the dailycaller.com. Democratic New York Attorney General Letitia James conducted a private event on New Year's Eve, just as the stroke of midnight was taking place at the abandoned Old City Hall subway station. This was at midnight, formally transferring power to the new elected mayor of New York City, Zoran Mamdani. Bernie Sanders publicly then swore him in as a mayor at the steps of New York City's Hall later Thursday. And friends, Mamdani used two Korans for the private ceremony, one that belonged to his grandfather, another one from the New York City Public Library, becoming the first mayor of the city to use this Muslim religious book that calls for the killing of Jews and Christians. That's what he swore his oath of office on, one that advocates violence against Jews and Christians. Strike the necks. Decapitation is what that is. Newsmax reports that Mamdani's use of the Quran at his swearing-in ceremony showed that the enemy is inside the gates. That's according to Senator Tommy Tuberville of Alabama. Tuberville ignited a fresh political firestorm Wednesday morning after posting the warning on X alongside a screenshot of a New York Times report. Tuberville slammed Mamdani's historic choice to use a Quran, calling it a sign that the nation's enemy has penetrated institutions once grounded in traditional American values. Conservatives say the issue is not about private faith, but public signaling, especially when coupled with Mamdani's promise of aggressive government intervention in the economy. Mamdani has already drawn backlash from Democrats and Republicans over proposals such as citywide rent freezes, free child care, and free public transportation. CBN.com also reports that during the inaugural address, Mamdani said, "We will transform the culture of City Hall from one of no to one of how. We will answer to all New Yorkers, not to any billionaire oligarch who thinks that they can buy our democracy. We will govern without shame and insecurity, making no apology for what we believe. I was elected as a Democrat socialist, and I will govern as a Democrat socialist." Now, Matt Vespa at townhall.com said the creepiest line in his mayoral address is probably one in which he talked about replacing individualism with collectivism. Friends, we see the whole aspect of communism right here. And here is the statement that he made during the inauguration.
How long these communities have existed as distinct from one another. We will draw this city closer together. We will replace the frigidity of rugged individualism with the warmth of collectivism. If our campaign demonstrated that the people of New York yearn for solidarity, then let this government foster it. Because no matter what you eat, how you pray, or where you come from, the words that most define us are the two we all share: New Yorkers.
Mamdani revoked all of the executive orders that his predecessor, Eric Adams, had issued since September 26, 2024, reports the JerusalemNewsService.org, including several designed to protect Jews in order, he said, to have a fresh start for the incoming administration. Israel National News says the Minister of Diaspora Affairs and Combating Anti-Semitism, Amichai Chikli, responded to the steps taken by Mamdani to cancel the recent executive orders combating anti-Semitism that were issued by Eric Adams, saying it is no coincidence that one of Mayor Mamdani's first actions was an attempt to cancel the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism. He knows very well that according to that definition, he himself falls under the category of anti-Semitic. Instead of confronting reality, he's trying to change the rules. According to Chickley, it does not stop there, and at the same time, he's working to lift the ban on boycotts of Israel and to erase official statements made by his predecessor, Eric Adams, regarding anti-Semitism in New York. The fact that such moves are taking place in New York City, the city with the largest Jewish population in the world outside of Israel, is a serious warning sign. Fox News is also reporting that Mamdani used his first day in office yesterday to hit the ground running with new executive orders targeting city landlords and housing development. He said the city will take what he called precedent-setting action to intervene in a private landlord bankruptcy case he said was tied to 93 buildings. And friends, as you can imagine, the Council on American Islamic Relations is ecstatic regarding his now being sworn in as mayor of New York City. I'm looking at a press release that CARE sent out. CARE of New York called Mayor Mamdani's inauguration, quote, a historic moment of progress for American Muslims and the entire nation. In a statement, the National Executive Director, Nihad Awad, said this in part. He said, quote, his victory delivered a clear message. The Israel First lobby is losing political power, and anti-Muslim bigotry is losing its power as of a political weapon. We also recognize the meaningful symbolism of Zoran taking the oath of office on the Quran. He said it was a moment of pride for countless Muslim families to see their faith reflected in public life. Jihad Watch reports that Mamdani announced that Ramzi Qassem, a 9/11 terror lawyer, is going to serve as the city's occupying chief counsel. He argued that the Al-Qaeda, this is a man that argued that the Al-Qaeda attack a week earlier, that was referring to 9/11, 2001, was a result of the resentment these terrorists felt toward the United States as a result of our country's policies. You see, it's our fault, friends. 9/11 is our fault, and these attackers from Al-Qaeda, well, they were just expressing resentment. He also said that the legacy of 9/11 ought to be recounted primarily through the stories of Muslims the world over who have largely paid the price of American power and prosperity. And this now, serving as New York City chief counsel? From justthenews.com, Representative Ilhan Omar of Minnesota, at the forefront of expanding federal funding for pandemic-era food and child care programs. Those programs are now at the center of fraud allegations among the Somali immigration population in her home state. Omar, who represents a congressional district with a sizable Somali population in Minneapolis, was the one who championed the Meals Act in 2020 at the height of the pandemic and offered an amendment that would allow the federal government the ability to grant waivers to state governments for increased cost. Omar introduced the act with the goal of removing oversight barriers to the expansion of federally funded state meals programs. It was because of those waivers that Minnesota is now facing scrutiny for allegedly mismanaging federal funds, including by distributions to the Feeding Our Future program. Western Journal is also reporting that the U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi announced Monday that the Department of Justice has already arrested and charged 98 individuals with fraud in Minnesota, 85 of whom are of Somali descent. What's more, the Attorney General said that there are further prosecutions coming. The announcements came after a series of videos from YouTuber Nick Shirley that indicated fraud in the Somali community went beyond just the Feeding Our Future fraud scheme, in which a Minneapolis-based nonprofit allegedly misappropriated massive sums of money meant to feed at-risk families. Nick Shirley's work has helped show Americans the scale of fraud in Tim Walz's Minnesota, Bondi had said. Also, The Daily Caller reporting that a child care center licensed under Tim Walz's administration raised eyebrows by having a publicly listed phone number leading right back to Walz's office. Sweet Angel Childcare in Minneapolis went viral Monday after ex-users pointed out that its phone number on Google Maps is the same as Walz's office. Minnesota Department of Human Services records also show the daycare kept its license despite numerous violations of state child care standards, raising questions about oversight under Walz's welfare bureaucracy. WND.com says the Health and Human Services Department Tuesday announced it is freezing all child care payments to Minnesota amid allegations of widespread fraud. We've turned off the money spigot, said HHS Deputy Secretary Jim O'Neill. The HHS took 3 actions against the rampant fraud in Minnesota. All payments across the country will require justification and photo evidence before money is sent to the state. All individuals in Nick Shirley's video have been identified and audits have been demanded. The HHS has also launched a fraud reporting hotline. Breitbart says that police in Minneapolis have disputed a Somali-run daycare center's claim that important documents disproving of fraudulent activity were stolen. The Nokomis Daycare Center claimed that a burglar broke into their building through the kitchen in the rear of the facility on Tuesday, rummaging through the main office and stealing documents pertaining to its operations. Police say there was no report filed. That said there by the New York Post. PJ Media reporting the Small Business Administration is clawing back all grants to the state of Minnesota over its gargantuan fraud scandal. The SBA Administrator Kelly Loeffler confirmed the move on December 28th, saying she was disgusted and sickened by the Minnesota government covering up for out-of-control fraud. SBA was able to identify $500 million worth of fraud just in the first few days of the federal entity investigating Minnesota. And Pamela Geller and the Geller Report says in the latest developments in the largest fraud heist in our nation's history, it's been revealed that many of the fake child care centers donating to national Democrat races across the country. Democrats have built a system that invites large-scale fraud by exploiting lax enforcement and mass illegal entry, allowing billions in taxpayer funds to be siphoned through government programs with minimal oversight. Much of that money flows through NGOs, contractors, and political fundraising networks that are closely aligned with the Democratic Party, including PACs and ActBlue-linked entities, she reports. Systemic corruption and influence peddling. Pamela Geller states, this is not accidental. Truly troubling indeed. One building in Minneapolis has 14 home health care agencies at the same address. Another building in St. Paul has 22. Posted on X. The state has 1,020 non-emergency medical transportation companies registered. More than 800 are Somali-owned. And friends, tell you what, we're just seconds from the break. We'll take the break. But pretty alarming information also coming from TSA agents spilling the beans on Somali men flying potentially billions of dollars out of the U.S. in carry-on luggage. We'll be back in just 1 minute. It's the News Roundup and Comment Friday here on Crosstalk. This is the VCY America Network.
Back to Genesis with Dr. John Morris, scientist and creation researcher with the Institute for Creation Research. Dr. Morris, when did the mammoths die?
Chris, the mammoths were thought to have died out about 10,000 years ago. And although evolutionists have admitted that early man must have seen the mammoths, more recent evidence has caused them much consternation. In the tomb of one of the pharaohs in Egypt is a drawing of men carrying ivory tusks on their shoulders. Next to them is an animal that sure looks like a mammoth, with hairy skin and a domed head, just like we see in mammoth fossils. And why not? Mammoths are a variety of the elephant kind, and 2 of them were on board Noah's Ark. Certainly humans knew of them, and from the earliest times have made use of their ivory. Chris, it's the back to Genesis view of history which makes sense out of the evidence.
To equip yourself with facts that support your faith, visit us on the web at www.icr.org. That's www.icr.org.
This is Crosstalk on VCY America. Thank you for tuning in here on this first Friday of the new year of 2026. And beginning here with the news roundup and comments, much taking place. Friends, we don't know what the future holds for us in 2026, but we can rest with confidence. We know who holds the future. And despite the news, despite the issues that are taking place, please know that nothing takes God by surprise. He doesn't have to call emergency sessions together, but that which God has before ordained indeed is going to come to pass. We see man continuing to go down the way of depravity. We see the lawlessness that's on the increase, just as Scripture says it would. From WND.com, as alarms continue to blare concerning massive fraud in Minnesota's Somali community, some federal TSA agents are now revealing details of how Somali men have been flying potentially billions of dollars out of the U.S. inside their carry-on luggage in recent years with no one stopping them. Liz Jacksa, a former TSA agent who worked at the Minneapolis-St. Paul International Airport from 2016 to 2021, recently spoke to Liz Cullen of Alpha News. Jaska said, "I've seen a lot of things, but the most shocking is exactly that I saw suitcases filled with millions of dollars cash, and the couriers were always Somali men traveling in pairs. And they got through the security checkpoint. It was just really absolutely blew my mind. And the first time you open a suitcase and see millions of dollars of cash, typically what would happen is that the law enforcement officer would come check their credentials, but their IDs were already documented, and probably their plane tickets as well. But it wasn't just money, just taking money out of America," the former TSA agent revealed. There was another instance, she said, again a Somali man, that had a carry-on luggage filled with brand new passports, and he was allowed to get through the checkpoint. So where he went with those passports is anybody's guess. When asked if there was any truth to allegations that the cash was funneled to the Islamic terrorist group Al-Shabaab, Jessica responded, "Absolutely. Knowing what I know now, absolutely. There's no question in my mind that money went to Al-Shabaab." From Just the News, the debate over allegations of Somalian child care center fraud in Washington state has intensified. Yes, friends, this is going beyond Minneapolis. This is going beyond Minnesota. Some have said that Minnesota is nothing but the tip of the iceberg. Now here is Washington. The Center Square reported on and participated in visits to licensed child care centers in Washington state in which no children were found there, while others posting on X have visited child care centers across Washington questioning whether they are legitimate businesses. Licensed child care providers can receive taxpayer subsidies through grants from State Department of Children, Youth, and Families, which are sent to the provider after services are provided. As of December 28, there are more than 500 child care centers that listed Somali as their primary language. The Daily Caller is reporting a Washington state Democratic lawmaker introduced a bill that would exempt the sharing of personal information and public records for all child care providers in the state amidst investigations into alleged Somali daycare fraud. They're trying to shield daycare operators from the scrutiny. This is Democratic State Senator Lisa Wellman, who has sponsored SB 5926 on December 22nd, aiming to extend the public records exemption from applying only to family home child care providers to covering any licensed or certified providers of child care. No, they don't want the fraud to be found, wanting to exempt them from such investigations. Just the News is also reporting an Ohio lawmaker wants an investigation into the state's child care facilities that he says are suspect of fraud. Josh Williams, a state legislator, claims there have been multiple reports alleging fraud in publicly funded child care programs that bill the state for children who don't attend. He specifically wants Columbus area facilities investigated, saying what's happening in Minnesota is almost certainly going on in Columbus, and Ohio needs to use every power we have under the law to stop it, Williams said. A letter drafted by Williams and signed by 42 other Ohio lawmakers is asking the Ohio Department of Children and Youth to conduct more unannounced inspections of child care facilities that receive state funding. And friends, the continuing pandering to Islam, we're seeing that taking place here, especially in Minnesota here with the growing Somali community. And then as we have here from the Western Journal, Democratic Minnesota Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan praised Somali migrants in the state during a visit to a market in a video posted on YouTube recently. President Donald Trump announced in November that he would end temporary protected status for Somalis in the state in response to allegations of welfare fraud and said that the influx of refugees had destroyed our country. Well, Flanagan, Lieutenant Governor, who wore an hijab, a head covering worn by some Muslim woman, and during her visit to the market held a microphone during the video posted by Somali TV of Minnesota. Here's what she had to say.
Assalamu alaikum. My name's Peggy Flanagan. I am the Lieutenant Governor of Minnesota, and I'm really honored and humbled to be here with all of you today. I am incredibly clear that the Somali community is part of the fabric of the state of Minnesota.
Part of the fabric of the state of Minnesota. Pamela Geller reporting Ilhan Omar and her husband Tim Minette have seen their fortunes skyrocket since taking office. Minette runs one of the largest venture capital firms, which went from $0 to $60 billion in assets in about a year. Omar's husband is reported to be associated with a venture capital firm that surged from little-known status to tens of billions of dollars in assets in a remarkably short period. As scrutiny intensifies over widespread fraud allegations in Minnesota, the firm has removed multiple officers and advisors from its website, according to reporting, a move critics say raises red flags. Omar earns $174,000 annually as a member of Congress, yet her publicly reported net worth shifted. Now listen to this, folks. Her publicly reported net worth shifted from $32,000 in 2019 to $30 million by 2024. The timing of the firm's sudden digital cleanup, combined with these financial disclosures, is now fueling questions about transparency, influence, and accountability. Roselake Capital, which touts its deep global networks built from on-the-ground work in more than 80 countries, had less than $1,000 in assets in 2023, according to Omar's financial disclosure. And the Geller report also reporting you can begin to understand why the swamp fought Musk and Doge so hard. HUD officials say the majority of some $5 billion in fraudulent rental aid in 2024 went to New York, California, and D.C. through dead people, though dead people from all 50 states got paid. In 2024 alone, under Biden, payment error of over 11%, $5.2 billion to inactive accounts, $77 million to deceased tenants, $150 million to non-existent Social Security numbers, and $288 million to excessively high rent. From Just the News, dozens of New York revelers were killed. Over 100 were injured early Thursday morning when a fire raged through a bar in a popular ski resort in the Swiss Alps. Hundreds of people were packed into a bar. This is from Not the Beag, lay constellation. And according to the reports, the fire was started by a woman who was waving around a lit firework while she sat perched on someone's shoulders. A witness named Victoria told French outlet BFM TV, quote, "It was firework candles inside a champagne bottle that caused the explosion. The entire ceiling of the bar caught fire." And friends, the number killed and the number of injuries as well is rather astounding. Geller report as well. Nationwide unrest in Iran is intensifying with protests that are spreading across the country, signaling a rapidly escalating challenge to the regime. She reports that video footage circulating online shows violent clashes between protesters and security forces. In the videos, demonstrators confront security forces in crowded streets amid scenes of screaming and apparent gunfire, hurling objects, and chanting anti-regime slogans, including "Death to the Dictator," "Death to Ali Khamenei," and "Shame on you." According to Fox News, the regime ordered a sweeping shutdown across much of the country, closing businesses, universities, and government offices. Eyewitness accounts describe crowds continuing to chant "Long live the Shah," despite reports of tear gas and live fire warnings in parts of the area. Iran's exiled Shah and national leader Reza Shah Pahlavi II urges the world, quote, "The tide of history is turning. I invite you not only witness the birth of a new Iran, but to stand by our side as we achieve it and to work with us to build a legacy of lasting peace." Just the News reports President Trump said that the U.S. is going to intervene if Iran kills peaceful protesters, saying we are locked and loaded and ready to go. Also from CBN, the Iranian protesters over the flailing economy are spreading even as Iran is reportedly developing chemical and biological missile warheads. Violent protests throughout Iran forced a government shutdown in 21 provinces as unrest spread over the skyrocketing prices and also economic collapse. Businesses, universities, and government offices closed in response to the regime shutdown. We'll hit some other areas here as well. This state of Israel awarded Donald Trump the Israel Prize, a country's highest cultural honor. The prime minister said President Trump has broken so many conventions, we decided to break one too, and awarding first time to a non-Israeli, giving a special award, the Israel Prize, to President Trump, thanking Trump for his commitment to strengthening the ties between the two countries.
I have to say that in addition to what I said, that we've never had a friend, even close, a friend, as President Trump in the White House. I think he's been extraordinary in his friendship and his support for Israel, his principled positions, his willingness to just cut through and get to the essence of things. And I don't say that as a compliment. I just mean it. People have heard me say that behind your back, Mr. President, many times. But I want to say something else. I think we have a partnership, if I can quote you, second to none. I think it's allowed us to do enormous things. You know, people said there was a different conception at one time, which means that America can advance its interest in the Middle East if it opens a lot of daylight between it and Israel. And President Trump has done the exact opposite. He's achieved remarkable things in the Middle East because we've worked together. We talk about our ideas. Sometimes we have different ideas, but we work it out. And most of the time we see eye to eye. But it's been a remarkable experience, and this was a very, very productive meeting. And may I say, a very good lunch. Thank you. Thank you for your friendship.
Thank you very much, Felix.
And thank you for your support. It's meant from the heart.
Thank you.
Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and announcing that they're going to award the Israel Prize to President Trump, and this is first time to a non-Israeli, and saying we will award this to President Trump. We'll have some more news pertaining to Israel right after the break and other issues as well. This is a Friday News Roundup and Comment on Crosstalk. We'll be back in just a minute.
If America is a secular nation, why are there so many spiritual themes in the monuments of our nation's capital? VCY invites you to see Stories in Stones.
Hi, I'm Tim Schmig, and this is Stories in Stones, highlighting the men and the manuscripts and the monuments of our national Judeo-Christian heritage. We're going to be looking at a couple of the sites that are often overlooked, but are really important to us as far as showing us the godly heritage that we have as a nation.
Join Dr. Tim Schmig to explore the fascinating stories behind historic monuments and gravestones in Stories in Stones. You'll discover the secrets they hold and learn about the past etched in stone. Stories in Stones contains a Blu-ray, a DVD, and a digital download all together for a donation of just $15. Call VCY America, 1-800-729-9829.
You're listening to Crosstalk on VCY America, a news roundup and comment program here today as we come to the end of another week here. Much news taking place, a new year before us, new opportunities. And friends, I trust that you'll sense the urgency of getting out the gospel in such a time as this. Earlier this week, we had Pastor Richard Schmidt with us on a very important program entitled It Is Appointed. And we talked about his book, Are You Going to a Better Place? The Importance of the Gospel. And for those stations that carry the best of the week of Crosstalk, which airs Saturdays at noon Central Time, that program is going to be re-aired tomorrow in order to get out this all-important message. If you don't have access to the program, you can visit our website, crosstalkamerica.com. As we continue with Israel, this coming to us from Worthy News, President Donald Trump has given Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu approval to take action against Hezbollah if the Lebanese state fails to disarm the Iran-backed terror group, according to a Jerusalem Post exclusive, citing a source familiar with the talks. Although Lebanon and Hezbollah were only briefly discussed during Monday's meeting at Mar-a-Lago, the president reiterated his long-standing stance that Hezbollah must be completely disarmed and signaled U.S. backing should Israel determine that military action is necessary. From the Jerusalem Post, the Iron Beam laser-based air defense system has been deployed in the field, the Defense Ministry reported Sunday. Compared with Light Beam, Iron Beam has more power, a longer range, and can be used to defend against a wider array of threats. Well, another situation that's been brewing, of course, with Venezuela. Fox News is reporting Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro said yesterday that his government is open to negotiations with an agreement with the United States after months of American military pressure targeting drug trafficking networks tied to his government. The U.S. government knows because we've told many of their spokespersons that if they want to seriously discuss an agreement to combat drug trafficking, we're ready, he said. If they want oil, Venezuela is ready for U.S. investment, like with Chevron, wherever they want it, and however they want it. Chevron Corporation is the only major U.S. oil company currently exporting Venezuelan crude to the United States. The Daily Caller reporting President Trump said Wednesday that he's halting efforts to deploy National Guard troops in Chicago and Portland and ending the now paused Los Angeles deployment after judicial setbacks. We're removing the National Guard from Chicago, L.A., and Portland, despite the fact that crime has been greatly reduced by having these great patriots in those cities, and only by that fact, the president said on Truth Social. He also warned that federal forces could return in a much different and stronger form if crime rises again. The Geller Report, a Soros-backed NGO network, is now openly working to subvert the American justice system from the inside. A newly formed Washington, D.C. group, Free D.C., tied to Community Change and Community Change Action, is reportedly training residents to infiltrate juries as so-called skeptical jurors in federal cases involving President Trump and his administration. Hey, let me share some good news with you today. This from the New American. January 2026 marks the beginning of the 250th year of the U.S. as a nation. There's going to be much to celebrate this coming year. Our Declaration of Independence on July 4th. However, we're not waiting until July to celebrate. In a little more than 3 weeks, on January 20th, 2026, the United States will exit the UN's World Health Organization. January 20th, 2025, days after his inauguration, President Trump issued an executive order titled Withdrawing the United States from the World Health Organization. The U.S. has been a member of this since the foundation, since it was founded in 1948. President Harry Truman signed the Congressional Joint Resolution authorizing U.S. membership and outlining the withdrawal process. President Trump attempted to withdraw from the World Health Organization in July of 2020, but missed the one-year notification requirement before his term was up, and the Biden administration retracted the Trump withdrawal notification and reaffirmed the U.S. support for the organization. However, it looks like this time the U.S. WHO severance will go through. Also from ConservativeDailyNews.com, the Trump administration announced Monday a sweeping overhaul of U.S. funding for UN humanitarian programs, warning UN agencies they must adapt, shrink, or die. The State Department said the agreement requires the UN to consolidate humanitarian functions, cut bureaucratic overhead, and address what it described as ideological creep into aid agencies. U.S. officials argue the pledge preserves Americans' commitment to life-saving aid while forcing greater efficiency and accountability in how taxpayer dollars are spent. Here's another good news story from my perspective. From LifeNews.com, the nation's largest abortion business kicked off the new year by shuttering its Rolla, Missouri Center. That marks the first such closure in 2026. After nearly 50 Planned Parenthood facilities were forced to close nationwide last year amid the federal funding cuts. Just the News reporting the Pro-Abortion Society of Family Planning found the number of monthly abortions continued, though, to increase in 2025, with an estimated 98,630 babies aborted every month through June of 2025. Think about that, friends. 98,630 babies killed every month through June of 2025. From LifeNews.com, National Right to Life strongly condemns a federal court decision dismissing a legal challenge to Delaware's new medical aid and dying law, clearing the way for physician-assisted suicide to take effect yesterday, January 1, 2026. The ruling is deeply troubling for anyone concerned about the protection of vulnerable patients, said Carol Tobias, president of National Right to Life. LifeNews.com reporting the new Puerto Rico law says unborn babies are people from conception, a precursor to potentially passing an abortion ban that would truly protect babies before birth. A troubling story also from LifeNews.com, and that is the work continuing apace toward the goal of gestating babies outside a woman's body. Scientists have now implanted human embryos in organoids made of tissues that mimic the uterine lining. The reports, two from China and a third involving a collaboration among researchers in the UK, Spain, and the U.S., show how scientists are using engineered tissues to better understand early pregnancy and, quote, potentially improve IVF outcomes. Troubling story appeared on the Christian Post over the Christmas holiday. York St. John's University has been accused of discriminating against Christians by allowing the performance of a gay-themed nativity play. In the play, Jesus is described as the coming king of the gays, while his parents are a lesbian couple named Mary and Joe. The play is called A Gay in a Manger. It's the work of the university LGBTQ network. A preview of the play states, quote, Mary and Joe pack their pride flags and set off on the long journey to the best gay club this side of the Red Sea, heaven. But when Queen Herod heard of the new king of the gays, she began to plot for his downfall, for only she could be the queerest icon in the land. Christians on campus have described the play as not only blasphemous and offensive, but discriminatory on the grounds that no such play would be allowed if it had mocked the beliefs of Muslims. Answers in Genesis has the story, why should God have anything against their being four of them rather than two, is the question a clergywoman in Germany asked recently while defending her decision to marry four men, a polycule, during a pop-up wedding festival at the St. Paul the Apostle Church in Berlin. This was not a legal ceremony, as polygamy is not legal in Germany, but the clergywoman said it was marriage in the eyes of God. But it's no such thing that God defines marriage as one man for one woman and calls the relationship these four men have with each other as an abomination. Okay, U.S. Coast Guard, this is from the Epoch Times, has seized more than 469,000 pounds of cocaine under the Trump administration since January 20th, 2025. Less than a year, folks. more than 469,000 pounds of cocaine. That's enough to kill up to 177 million Americans at a lethal dose of 1.2 grams, Department of Homeland Security said in a December 31st post. Breitbart reporting that the U.S. Southern Command revealed Wednesday 2 different military operations against drug trafficking vessels between December 30th and 31st, killing 8 narco-terrorists. Both strikes were part of Operation Southern Spear. The Epoch Times reporting young people are being admitted to emergency rooms for severe vomiting disorder linked to cannabis use. Yes, to marijuana. The disorder surged by more than 650% between 2016 and 2022, according to the study. Well, mass exodus perhaps coming in the state of California. Newsmax is reporting that some billionaires are contemplating leaving California by the end of the year as lawmakers discuss placing a one-time 5% wealth tax on the November 2026 ballot, New York Times reported. Known as the 2026 Billionaire Tax Act, the initiative would levy a one-time 5% tax on all forms of personal property and wealth, whether tangible or intangible, of billionaires in the state in 2026 to fund state-funded health care programs such as Medi-Cal. Tech inventor Peter Thiel and Google co-founder Larry Page are weighing plans to scale back or to sever their ties to California by year's end as a result. The tax proposal needs about 870,000 valid signatures by June 25, 2026 to reach the state ballot. Okay, let's see. The Daily Signal reporting the military has reported its best recruitment numbers in more than 15 years in 2025. In 2025, every active duty branch of the military met or exceeded its recruitment goal, the Department of War reported. Now, this is something that did not happen under the Biden administration. The recruitment for the fiscal year 2026, which began October 1st, already off to a strong start. It's on track to once again meet our recruiting mission, reports the War Department. Okay, lots of controversy taking place with SNAP benefits. Millions of SNAP recipients are about to face new limitations on what they can use for a federal assistance program to buy food, including bans on soda, energy drinks, and candy, according to the USDA. At least 18 states will implement changes to the SNAP program. First up in January is Indiana, Iowa, Nebraska, Utah, and West Virginia. Additional states will make changes later in this year. The CDC is changing their hepatitis V vaccine birth dose recommendation for newborns. They have stopped recommending that all newborns receive hepatitis B vaccine at birth, making a significant shift in the policy that's been in place for decades. And very interesting news there. And WND.com has a story, quoting from the Gateway Pundit, about a Cleveland Clinic study found that a growing body of research is blowing the narrative apart, and the latest data showing that the flu vaccine increased the risk of getting the flu during the 2024-2025 flu season. Well, friends, we're up against a break. I would like to open our phone lines if you'd like to comment on these or other current event stories. It's been a very busy year of 2025. We welcome your calls. Our number is 800-733-9829. That's 800-733-9829. If you want to comment on these or other current events, our number 800-733-9829. Back in a minute here on Crosstalk. In times of festivity and celebration, the consumption of alcohol is greatly promoted in our society. Marketing and advertising convince you that it's the thing to do. Many an alcoholic begin their demise by saying, "I'll only have one or maybe 2 drinks. I can handle it." There's an old Japanese proverb which says, "First the man takes a drink, then the drink takes a drink, and then the drink takes the man." Proverbs 20 verse 1 says, "Wine is a mocker, strong drink is raging, and whosoever is deceived thereby is not wise." Whereas alcohol dulls one's senses, the Bible exhorts believers in Christ to be alert. 1 Peter 5:8 says, "Be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about, seeking whom he may devour." We live in critical times, and as such, we must stay alert to the wiles of the devil. A message reminding you to make wise choices from VCY America. This is Crosstalk on VCY America, and taking your calls, 800-733-9829. Mark is calling from Monroe, and Mark, go ahead. You are on the air.
Hey, Jim. First of all, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
My comment is, in my opinion, when Zoran Mamdani swears an oath on the Quran, that's a treasonous act against our constitutional republic. That and the Somalian takeover of Minneapolis makes me wonder how close we might be to an Islamic upper house takeover. You got Ilhan Omar in Minneapolis and Tim Walz and the governor. To me, they're as guilty as can be, and in total cahoots with the whole operation.
Yeah.
That's my comment.
Yeah, thank you, Mark. And we see their Attorney General there as well is one who took an oath before on the Quran, and it is truly. I mean, when we're a Judeo-Christian nation built on Judeo-Christian values, and certainly the Quran is anything but that. That actually calls for the killing of infidels, of Christians and of Jews, and seems diametrically opposed to what one in elected office would hold to.
Yeah, I forgot to mention Keith Ellison. Thanks for reminding me.
Thank you, Mark. Thanks for the call.
Okay.
Jacques in Panama City, Florida, you're on the air.
Yes. I believe I heard you say that they were using human embryos and organic matter to raise them up from a wound. If I'm not mistaken, that's what you said. Wasn't there a World Games in China during COVID early on, and didn't they have all the top athletes in the world there that they could have drew DNA from to come up with a new species of human? Just the idea.
Yeah, I don't know that took place here, and evidently what they're doing is they're destroying after a number of days because of the ramifications, ethics, and so forth. But just what they're doing right now, it just is beyond the pale, and certainly is very troublesome. Thank you for the call. We've got Jim next in Wisconsin. Jim, you're on the air.
Well, Brother Jim, I know you guys talked about it a couple of times now regarding Mamdani swearing on the Quran, taking the oath of office. I've been doing some research on this. The oath of office is a legal binding event. And the fact that he would take the oath of office and put his hand on, like you said, the document that commands Muslims to kill the infidels would be a great majority of America is what he is vowing to do. Mm-hmm. And I would like to, I've been reaching out to different legal organizations trying to find out who can file a lawsuit against this man and hold him accountable for what he's doing and open this right up and let people know exactly what he's swearing allegiance to.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the call. It is very troublesome, and I'm looking at Usama Dakdak's The Violent Truth About Islam, the little red booklet that we offer here through VCY, and he quotes, like here is from the Quran, chapter 9, verse 73, "O you prophet, perform jihad against the infidels and the hypocrites, and be harsh with them, and their abode will be hell, and evil is the final place."
Can I make another point, Jim?
Yeah, go ahead.
Also, America's bringing judgment on herself regarding abortion and LGBTQ because we are depleting our population. Mm-hmm. In the Muslim community, they are increasing their population by exponential amount, and they're going to be outpopulating us. And so we're just bringing judgment upon ourselves if we don't get this thing turned around.
Yeah, you're right. Jim, thank you for the call. Let's go then to Jamie in La Mesa, Texas. And Jamie, go ahead. You're on the air.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead, Jamie.
Yes, I would like to say I am very troubled by the proliferation, I guess, of Muslims who are trying to take over this United States, especially in our country. And I would also like to ask you, when you spread all these lies and fear-mongering to all these rubes and hillbillies that are uneducated.
What lies, Jamie? Excuse me, we're not going to let you say that, but Jamie, I don't know what lies you're referring to, but certainly this is well documented. I mean, as far as what Islam is all about, matter of fact, you're calling from Texas. In Texas, you've got this large area. They were calling it Epic City, the East Plano Islamic Center, sparking this controversy and making it, the original plan was to make it Muslim exclusive. And as I read just moments ago, even from the Quran itself, and when you take your oath of office on this, and here is from chapter 47, verse 4, so when you meet those who become infidels, so strike the necks, that's decapitation, until you make a great slaughter among them. So, Jamie, don't say we're spreading lies. There is a lie. It's called deceit, and the lies and the deceit stem from the devil. Tammy is calling next from New Berlin, Wisconsin. Tammy, you're on the air.
Hi. Thank you for taking my call. I'm calling with a quick comment in response to the blasphemous portrayal of the Christmas story. Yeah. And my comment is just from Galatians 6:7 and verse 8a. It says, "Do not be deceived. God is not mocked. For whatever a man sows, this he will also reap. For the one who sows to his own flesh shall from the flesh reap corruption." And I am very just saddened and sickened to hear that bit of news. But those people are going to be held accountable for how they portrayed our beautiful story.
Indeed, indeed. Thank you for your comment here today.
Thank you.
And Tom, Port Wing, we've only got 30 seconds. What would you like to get in?
I want to get in real quick. The Attorney General of Minnesota, his name is Keith Ellison. Mm-hmm. He has converted from Catholicism to Islam. His new name he chose was Hakeem Mohammed, meaning the Prophet of Mohammed is his name.
Thank you for the call here. Troublesome times here across the country and what we're seeing take place. But friends, the darker the night, the brighter the light shines. And came across a very interesting story here of a grandfather recording himself reading the Bible and giving it to each of his grandchildren as a Christmas gift. What a blessing that is. Friends, it's the Word of God that we need to proclaim. Proclaim to those that we love. Proclaim because this world is in need of Jesus. Chelsea Beat on Bible Believing Church Sunday. Thanks for listening.
You've been listening to Crosstalk via satellite and the internet from VCY America. Views expressed may or may not be those of this station. For a CD of today's program, send a donation of $6 or more to VCY Tape Ministry, 3434 West Kilbourne Avenue, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, 53208, or download by RSS or podcast from crosstalkamerica.com. And join us again for Crosstalk.